Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. Calendar with Droid Life. We've got Android 4.4, KitKat. It's now official, was announced yesterday by Google. Pushed to AOSP. We've got ROMs available. We flashed one on our Nexus 4. So what we want to do today is just sort of give you a tour of it. There's a lot of stuff in KitKat that's new or has been tweaked slightly. We just want to make sure you're aware of it in case you get an official update on your Nexus 4, 7, or 10. You buy a you buy a Nexus 5, you flash a ROM on other devices like say Galaxy Nexus or S4 or something like that. So we just want to show you guys some highlights, make sure you guys know everything that's going on out there. So let's jump through it. Bunch of tips and tricks for Android 4.4 KitKat. So the first place we're going to start is actually on the lock screen. So there's not a ton of changes here, but there are some tweaks. So if you look, obviously you've got your unlock button, but if you look down here, you've actually got an arrow that points up that says basically swipe me up to get to Google Now. Now in previous builds up until now, it used to be just sort of a dotted circle, and it really didn't make sense. Like, I don't know who would know to swipe that up unless you just sort of knew that. So the arrow sort of asks people to swipe that up, and you can do that to get right into Google Now. The other thing is you've always been able to swipe from the right and get into your camera, but now they're sort of reminding you that you can do that. And there's actually a little icon down here, a little camera icon. You can swipe that over and that will get you in there as well. So there's that arrow and there's that camera icon. So that works. The other thing I want to point out is that we've still got lock screen widgets. Although lock screen widgets have to be enabled. So I'm actually going to go into settings and show you what I mean by that. If we go into security, there is an option right there for enabling widgets. So if we actually disable those and we go back to the lock screen, I'll show you if I swipe, you can't actually add a new screen. You can't do that swipe down like you typically can do when you have lock screen widgets. So if we go back in and go back to security and enable those, and we'll show you. Now I can actually swipe over, tap the plus, and go ahead and add, whatever I want. Now let's say I add one. Now I have two, and I want to get rid of one. It's just a long press and remove, or you can rearrange, just like you've done in the past. But just keep in mind that you have to enable them in order to use them. Okay, so that's essentially your lock screen. It hasn't changed a lot, but it did change just a little bit. So let's unlock. All right, so now we're looking at, this is the new Google Home or Google Experience Launcher, if you will. Now, a lot of these AOSP ROMs, they aren't gonna have this baked in, or it's not essentially an AOSP feature. It's more than likely, at least my understanding, it's featured on the Nexus 5. And so we've actually pulled the APKs from the Nexus 5 and you can flash them or install them. Actually, you can essentially just install them on any device. So we've done that here. I would suggest doing that just so you get that full 4.4 experience that you'll see sort of with the Nexus 5. We've got APKs at the site if you want to do that. So with that said, this new launcher is really cool. It's got some new features in it. And let's just whip through some of these. So first thing you'll notice is, well, if we go to the app drawer, this is just apps now. It's no longer an app/widget drawer. You'll notice up at the top, it no longer says apps and then widgets. It just is apps. So if you had multiple pages, you would just page through them. I just don't really have anything on there. So it's just an app drawer. If you want to access widgets, now it's back to, so we're sort of reverting back to old practice here. It's a long press on a home screen. And now you actually have three options. You have one for wallpapers, one for widgets, and one for settings. So if you want to get into your widgets, you just tap that. And this is where you sort of get your, glossy, glazed over sort of buttons for widgets. So let's say I want this clock, and I can just drag and drop that wherever. And that's sort of how you do that. Now you'll notice I only have one home screen. Well, it says I have two, but if I go right, you can see there's nothing over there. Okay, and if I go left, this is actually how you get to Google Now. So if I swipe back in, I've got two screens, one here, and I've got one over here for Google Now. Okay, you can also do the home screen swipe up and that'll get you into Google Now, but you can just swipe over once you're on your main far left home screen. One more swipe to your left gets you there. It's kind of a cool, quick little shortcut. But let's say you want other home screens, right? So since I don't have any, in order to add one of those, you just need to grab an item and sort of drag it to the edge, and that will open up a new home screen for you. You can resize stuff. So now I have this home screen, there's Google Now, and then I have this second screen over here. If I want to get rid of that, I just get rid of whatever's on it and it actually just disappears. You can see now there's nothing over there. But you can even just grab an app and drag it over, and I could grab another app and drag it. Now I've got a whole bunch of home screens. Okay, So if you want to zoom out for a second, you can actually scroll through these and look at them, and you can even rearrange these if you'd like. So let's say I want this one to be my main home screen. Now that's my main home screen. So if I scroll all the way over here to the right, hit home, takes me back to that first page, so then I can swipe back over to Google Now. Now I don't believe there's a way for you to long press and get rid of these. There's no remove button that I've seen. So you just have to rearrange, and then if you want to just get rid of stuff, again, you have to just remove everything that's on there. I sort of hope Google fixes that so you can get into this screen and maybe remove home screens that way, but so far it doesn't appear to. Then again, this launcher wasn't built for this phone, so maybe it's there on the Nexus 5, just not here. So anyways, if you want to change wallpapers, you got another shortcut down there. You can get into your wallpaper picker, and it will show you sort of previews of how they will all look on your display. If you want to choose one from your gallery, you just tap on that pick image button right there, and that will take you into this sort of area. Okay, so that's sort of how we pick wallpapers. Again, they've changed it. There's a set button up there. They've changed just the way that sort of looks. The other thing is you can long press and go into settings and sort of some of your Google Now settings. Like if you don't want Google Now to be over there on that far left, you can actually toggle it off right there. You can change some other things there as well. Okay, so that's sort of what we're looking at. The other thing then is you can say, okay, Google, from anywhere now. I'm sorry, not anywhere. As long as you're on a home screen or you're in Google Now, you can just say, okay, Google, and it will pop up and let you do a voice search. So I want to make it clear that this is not like the Moto X. Okay, with the Moto X, you can have your phone in a locked state and say the command. I don't really want to say because my Moto X is sitting right over there, but I can't say, okay, Google, and it won't pop up and do anything. But once I'm unlocked on a home screen, I can say, okay, Google, and then it pops up. Okay, so just keep in mind that it's cool and powerful, it's just not quite on the level of the Moto X. But you could say, okay, Google, did the Miami Heat win last night? And they know that they didn't, so that's why I'm searching for that. And there you go. So that's how you pull that stuff up. So you can do voice searches, pretty cool, sort of hands-free, touchless control. I did want to show you one other thing with the lock screen though, real quick before we get away from it. Let's say you're in Google Music and you're playing a song, and then you lock your phone, and you want to get to the lock screen to control it or look at and all that stuff. They've actually changed this a little bit, which is kind of cool. So you've now got full screen album art, and this should show up, I believe, if you're watching a movie, like say through Chromecast or something like that as well. But what's cool is you can now long press on the pause play button, and then you can actually jump ahead in a track or movie, or jump back, rewind, fast forward. So it's kind of giving you a little bit more power that you didn't have in the past. Obviously you can pause or switch tracks and stuff, which is kind of a cool thing. They've added some more power to the lock screen that way. All right, so Google Now, again, you swipe over here. The Google Now has actually changed. You can pull to refresh. There's some other ways for it to just continue to learn from you and sort of get smarter. It's probably a video for another day, but Google Now is right there, and it's changed a little bit. There's an updated APK for that, so you might want to grab that. If we look at the notification area, this really hasn't changed. You've still got Google Now. You've got email shortcut, or you can see notifications, not just emails. We can see any notification shows up. That hasn't really changed, you know, all that much. But one thing, if we go over here to the quick toggles, they've added a location quick toggle. They've also sort of changed some of the look of some of the sort of outlines of items when they're not activated, I guess you could say. But if we jump into location, this is actually kind of cool. So Google's trying to tell you to not worry about disabling GPS and disabling Wi-Fi and disabling data and all this to conserve battery. They're trying to do it through location settings. So you can see my mode is on high accuracy, which also means more battery consumption. But if I go ahead and tap that, you can change it to battery saving or device only. There's some different things you can do in there. You can also tell certain apps how much battery you want them to use, which is kind of cool. So Google's saying that, you know, batteries get drained a lot because of GPS and all of that use and location and all that stuff. So they're trying to get you to start toggling these rather than worrying about just turning off GPS altogether. So it's kind of a cool new thing. And again, you can access that quickly in your quick toggles. There's a shortcut for it right there. So let's see what else we've got. We've got tap and pay. So they've now factored in this new tap and pay section. You can actually go in here and you should be able to just tap to pay. It should just, although I'm not exactly sure how it's working, I haven't had a chance to use it yet, but there is a tap and pay menu and you should be able to tap and set up your device sort of on the fly. I would imagine you probably need a SIM card in there. Again, don't necessarily take my official word on that. and the learn more button doesn't work either. But there's going to be, essentially Google's made it easier to do NFC payments where you don't have to carry about the carrier blocking you and all of that stuff. It's going to be awesome. We'll still have to learn more about it, but you'll notice that in the settings anyway, a new tap and pay option. There's also sort of a printing option down here, so you can set up a whole bunch of cloud printers and things like that, which is kind of cool. The other thing I want to show you though is this option right here for home. So let's say you have more than one